Welcome to Dan's Talks. My guest today is Mark Petering, or Dr. Mark Petering, who is a professor of music at Carthage College in Wisconsin. And you might wonder why I'm putting him on our podcast here in the Hamptons, and you will soon see why. Some years ago, there was a Hamptons Music Festival in the Hamptons, at which I was on the board of directors, and not a whole lot of people were coming. It was being held in a park next to the horse show grounds in Bridgehampton. And the train would go by at about 8 o'clock right along the tracks there, about 50 yards away from where we had big tents set up. So we decided at a meeting to spice it up a bit and have a competition. The competition was to write a 15-minute, roughly 15-minute composition about, which would be a musical competition, would be the premiere performance of it at the music festival by the winner, who would be flown in or brought here for the occasion. And the entrance would be either students or beginning assistant professors under the age of 25 at the music schools around the country. So we sent out posters. The man I'm talking to is Mark Petering, as I said, and he will pick it up from there.
Yeah, great to be with you, Dan. Yeah, so I saw that poster. I was studying for my PhD at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities, and I just immediately became intrigued with the idea. I'm someone who always been fascinated with trains since I was a young kid, and this just seemed like a great way to combine my love of music with trains. So I got to work.
One of the requirements of the piece was that it had to include the sound of the train going by, which would be live. That would be our train.
Absolutely.
We'd made arrangements with Long Island Railroad to have such a train for that purpose.
Yeah, it was just surreal to actually be working with staff from the Long Island Railroad. I actually got to know several of the guys, and I'm still in contact with Sam Zimbudos, who was the communications director. And as we get more into the story, I'll tell you how I worked with Sam to actually launch that train to come by the festival tent at the end of my composition for dramatic effect.
Proceed.
Great. So yeah, so I wrote the piece, I sent it in, and a month later, I got this amazing email that I had actually won the competition, and I was just absolutely thrilled. And actually had a vacation planned, a once-in-a-lifetime vacation planned to Australia with my folks and my brother. And they immediately said, obviously, you have to go to the Hamptons and hear your work, and we'll redo your flight out to Sydney or whatever. And so I made arrangements to come out, and one of the sort of the interesting twists here is that the music director Lucas Foss at the time had not been, or I guess he seemed to be not aware of the fact that there was going to be a train coordinated with a piece, which would have obviously present maybe some logistical issues, as this almost really has never been done before. And so I was told it was my job to talk to Lucas Foss, who is a tremendous musician, composer, conductor, and friend of Leonard Bernstein, close personal friend of Leonard Bernstein, and to convince him that this idea was going to work. And so I remember going to his home, and he was sitting quietly in a chair, and I sat next to him and talked to him about the piece, and he kind of was nodding, and he's like, well, I think it can work as long as we have the recording of a train also as a backup, just in case. I said, absolutely, we're going to have everything ready for you. And so he gave the final approval, and I remember then visiting him in New York at the Carroll Studios, where they were doing the rehearsals, and then I shared a cab with him back to Penn Station to get a train ride back up to the Hamptons one of those afternoons. And then the rehearsal came, and we actually had the train for the rehearsal as well. So that was pretty crazy.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I was working with the Long Island Railroad folks, and they said, okay, you literally have a 10-minute window. I believe it was from like 3:50 in the afternoon to 4 p.m. because there was, a lot of union rules. They had to sort of negotiate when people were going to be working, and also like the other trains had to be, handled through that same railroad corridor. And so we had literally a 10-minute window to rehearse the piece.
Describe the piece a little bit about how you structured it.
Sure, absolutely. So it starts only with strings playing a very exciting what we call an ostinato pattern. So it's a repeated pattern that then over time changes, and then you start to hear the cellos coming in with these sort of evocations of like a train whistle or a train horn. And then finally, after that first section is over with, after it climaxes, we enter this sort of wonderland of sort of not looking at the train very close up, like in the first section, but sort of from afar, like the train, wandering through a bucolic countryside.
So
And then, yeah,
these
go
are,
ahead.
this is a classic piece of classic music.
Yeah, it's scored for chamber orchestras, so winds, percussion, winds, brass, percussion, and strings, and then of course the train. And
How many instruments were involved in this orchestra?
yeah, there were, I think, pairs of flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons, two horns, two trumpets, two trombones, two percussionists. Then we had the recording of the train, and then we had the train itself, which was a mile down the track at the Bridgehampton, or excuse me, at the it was the Bridgehampton station. And then
How would they know when to come?
yeah, so that's a great question. So that's when I was working with Sam Zambuto. I had calculated, I was told it would take a minute from standstill to where it would accelerate to pass by the festival tent. And so I knew I had to calculate 1 minute's worth of music. And so I did a little mathematics, just calculated, how many seconds go by for every measure. And then I got that up to 60 seconds, and I calculated from the very end back into the last section of the piece. And I still have that cue marking where in my score it literally says launch train. And so that's at the point in time where I leaned over to Sam, who had, I think at that time, he had a walkie-talkie, not a cell phone. The second time we did it, he had a cell phone, but he got on his walkie-talkie, goes, go, launch. And so the train, you can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't feel it, but you know it's coming.
This is a train with how many would it be, like 5 or 6 cars?
Yeah, this was like a full train with 5 carriages with it, and we had to make sure that it was launched at the right time, and we actually nailed it in rehearsal. So in the last section where the brass are playing, the winds are echoing the strings, it gets very climactic, very exciting, and then the train just roars in from our back left, and the surround sound was just absolutely just unreal, because you had the brass again, evocating the sound of a train horn, but then you had the real thing coming in from your back left, if you were sitting in the audience, and you could never literally recreate that surround sound, even in a movie theater today. It was just absolutely unbelievable.
I think there were about 100 people in that audience.
Yeah, I think even more. It was a packed house, and I remember I think Roy Scheider was actually there, so we had some Hollywood royalty there.
And I think when they first heard the horn of it approaching, everyone stood up. I was in the audience at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't believe we were going to make this happen on time and in the right moment of the train. It's in the climax of the piece.
Yeah, at the very end, that's the most climactic moment, and that's when the train just roared through, and it just people, really they showed their enthusiasm.
Yeah, what happened after that? Everything went quiet, I think, or everybody was jumping up and down like somebody had hit a home run.
Yeah, I mean, people were absolutely thrilled with the piece. I remember Ellen Ashenfarb, who was the assistant to Eleanor Sage Leonard, who founded the festival. She yelled out encore, and everybody kind of laughed, because we knew it would be so hard to obviously pull the train back, and that was an impossibility. But it was a great a great way to sort of round out the performance. And so, just a wonderful evening.
From my perspective in the audience, what I heard was like a little tiptoe at the beginning of this piece. How many minutes was it altogether?
Yeah, it was about 7 minutes long. This is a great concert opener. And again, it just starts in the upper strings, and then the low strings enter with those sort of long tones to evoke the train sound, the train horn. And then it opens up in the middle section for the full orchestra. And then it returns to that exciting part, but now everyone's playing, not just the strings. And then it crescendos and climaxes from there.
Right. And everyone just went crazy cheering.
Yeah,
Is there a video of this event and this thing somewhere?
there is. Absolutely. Yeah. So there's actually two videos on my YouTube channel. If you just go to YouTube and type in Mark Petering Train, you'll get the second, what we literally was the encore performance 5 years later, when we did it with slightly smaller forces, string orchestra and horns. And that'll come up. And then also then from that, if you go into my channel and hit playlists, there'll be a playlist with the earlier version with the full orchestra. And yeah, both are getting a lot of play on social media. A lot of folks have been checking that out for many years now.
He's won any awards since it was performed. That was
Well, it's your contest, Dan, was the only contest in which I entered the piece, and it won the contest. So I've decided to just honor it that way, and let the contest speak for me that way. So I haven't entered it anywhere else, but it's been played. It was played at UMass Boston. It was played here in Kenosha Symphony. It was played up in Minneapolis with a very good civic orchestra up there. It's been played in Texas. It's been played, throughout the country. So the score is also through my website, markpetering.org. If you're ever interested, you can contact me.
Now you stayed with us, but you were put up at my house for the 2 days we were there. What did you think of the Hamptons? Did you drive around or have any occasion to look at our place and see what it was like compared to what you're familiar with?
Yeah. Now you were an amazing host, Dan. And one thing, for some reason, I recall that we don't do this in the Midwest, but it seems like in the Hamptons or out east, you guys don't have doors on your cupboards or something. Your cupboards are, you just don't have the door. You just want to get your food and not fuss with the covered doors. But no, you had a wonderful place, and a lot of memorabilia from Dan's papers in your house, as I recall. So that was kind of fun to get to know you and what you do with the paper. And you actually, I think you gave me your Suburban to drive around in. So I made use of that, drove to East Hampton Beach and so forth, and just made the most of your generosity and visiting with you and other people in the Hamptons. Everybody was super friendly, and that was just a wonderful music festival.
How old were you at the time? Or were you a graduate student when you did this?
I was doing my PhD, so I was 29 when we did the first the premiere, and then I was 34 when we did the next the encore presentation 5 years later.
Oh, you were a single guy to me, young man in my home, staying there as a music student. Tell me about yourself and about your background and what got you interested in music, and what's happened with you since we met that time.
Sure. So I got real involved in music as a young person. Both my parents are classically trained musicians. My dad plays violin, my mom plays piano, and I started composing when I was like 10 years old, just little piano pieces. Then I gradually got into larger ensemble pieces. I'm sorry?
Where was this?
Where was this?
Yeah, where did you
Yeah,
grow?
sure. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee. And in high school, I won a state competition for string orchestra. And I placed third in a national competition with a fanfare for youth. And people were telling me I was, good at this and I love doing it. And I decided, why not? Let's pursue a music career. So I went to Luther College in Decorah, Iowa, and Bowling Green State in Ohio, and ultimately University of Minnesota. And then I got my current position here at Carthage in 2005. And so I've been continuing to write since then. And
Carthage College or university?
it's a college, and we have both undergrad and graduate programs.
Where is this?
It's in Kenosha. We're right on the lake, right between Milwaukee and Chicago. Beautiful campus.
And family, you got married?
I did. I have a wonderful wife, Annie, and an amazing son, Henry. And Henry loves to improvise on the piano, and he plays soccer. So I'm really proud of him. And my wife, she works in the legal field. So
How old is he now?
he's 10 now. Yeah, I can't believe it. So time flies when you have kids. Wow, it just time just takes off.
Thank you for being on the podcast. This is a memory that both of us share, right down to the details of, I think your parents came for the premiere and had the biggest bouquet of flowers I've ever seen that they presented to you on the stage right after it with when you were introduced. I just thought it would be wonderful to share this story about the Hamptons with this podcast. So thanks for being on it. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Great being with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.